I've just returned from a rather wonderful week in Barbados. I'm over the jet lag and I wanted to share with you some of the sketches I did while I was away. My name's Liz Chaderton. I'm a watercolour artist based in Berkshire, and every week I share a tip or trick that I wish I'd known about ages ago. I love to sketch from life, and while I'm on holiday I find it really relaxing. It helps me really be present in the moment by doing a few simple sort of holiday sketches. I've already shared a film how I made this concertina sketchbook to make my perfect holiday sketchbook. So I'll put a link to that if you're interested. And I also made a video about how I select which of my many art materials to take with me when I go away. Let's take a look inside. And thank you for all your best wishes. We had a great time. I promised I'd show you my sketches and tell you whether my perfect sketchbook was perfect and whether all the materials I took were sufficient or whether I regretted anything. Let's start with the sketches. You saw me test out my materials, just doing this really quick little, what would you call it? Doodle of all my materials. So let's not talk about that anymore. But here's the first spread. The house we were staying at, and I've got a sketch of the house, had the most gorgeous garden with palm trees and with lots of plants that we grow as house plants here, but of course they were just growing as hedges and wild. So I wanted to capture that colour, and on the first morning that's what I did. This is actually one of my favourite sketches of the holiday. I worked across 2 pages of the concertina sketchbook. I immediately realised that this dual tip marker I'd taken, fine liner one end and the brush pen the other, was not fully waterproof, which was a bit of a surprise to me. It wasn't the end of the world. You can see some of the black has run. It didn't run dreadfully, but it did run. So note to self next time, test the waterproofness. And you will find that sometimes pens are waterproof on one paper and slightly run on another. Just papers are different grippiness. They just hold on to the ink in different places. I used this little watercolour pan set for this, and I love the colours and the pop of them. So all that was really good. One of the questions I got asked from that video of me making my perfect sketchbook was, well, why doesn't it tear? And I just wanted to show you that in no way, after a week's worth of heavy use, has this torn. It's because the watercolour paper is strong. It's designed to be strong. If I'd used a full cotton paper, it would be even stronger. This is a wood paper, so it isn't quite as strong. But I've never had a book actually fall to pieces along a folded edge. I've had one fall to pieces where I haven't stuck it together properly. So if that has been your worry, don't be worried. Another question I was asked was, well, how do you cope with working on this, and getting support? And actually, because I started with a single page, I'm a bit out of sync. Really, you want to be using those covers to support and working if you're going to work across 2 pages like that, and then you can simply clip things in position, and that's easy enough to work on. Because I've done this one on the first page, I was working without the support of the covers. That wouldn't be a problem if you're working at a table. If you're sort of working your knee, it is a problem. So do think about making sure that you've got those covers to support, and maybe in that case leave a blank page, go on to a double, and then come back and fill it, so that you've always got the support of those pages. Say I wanted to do across these 2 pages, again I would probably just use that bulldog clip across the 2, and that's got a lot of support, or enough at least, for the sketching. This is the house we stayed in, and it absolutely was a millionaire's pad. Terribly posh, very lovely, with a super swimming pool and goodness knows what. So this one I did with the waterproof fine liner and with my grey toned dual tip markers. If you saw the previous video, I said that these are water soluble. They're basically like Tombows, but rather cheaper. I don't think it made it look slightly gloomy. I just wanted to do a monochrome. It wasn't gloomy, it was full of light and gorgeous, but it had an awful lot of very odd angles going on. Doesn't matter if maybe the perspective isn't absolutely tip top. I don't think that does matter. Let me show you. I've just got a piece of watercolour paper. So I would have, let's start with a palm tree or something. I didn't take any pencil or eraser because I was on holiday and I didn't want to spend hours doing my sketches. And the danger is that if you do pencil first, it just makes you a little indecisive and you might take a lot longer than if you simply go in and go straight with pen. So I think all these paintings took, well, sketches took, I don't know, half an hour, because we were a group of friends and I didn't want to be antisocial all the time. But it was nice to be able to sometimes just sit and breathe. Other people doing things, didn't fancy reading my book, didn't want to be swimming at that particular point. I know what, I'll do a sketch. It's as simple as that. Say I was doing this palm tree, I might, usually I start with the lightest of the greys, and because it's always easier to go darker rather than to go lighter. So I might think, I want a dark background around this, and start with one of the lighter greys. And you might think, oh, that looks a bit not great. But then I used my water brush and they were great. So you squeeze the barrel and the water comes out, and then you can smooth and really make those water soluble pens run and paint with it. And then if I decided that wasn't dark enough, I might add a slightly darker tone, and I can just blend it in. And you'll find it blends better on some papers than others. This is quite an absorbent paper, so I'm not getting rid of every single pen line just because of how the paper is. I can build that colour up and go as dark as I want to. I tend not to go really dark because it does become a little bit gloomy, potentially. Just build up a bit of tone there, and again blend that in, and it's a really nice way of working. So that's how I'd have used the waterproof pens along with the water soluble pens. If you remember, I took this Stabilo 88 pen. Let's just do another palm tree. We'll have one here, seeing I was quite taken with the palm trees. Actually, my favourite palm trees were the ones with really had super curly branches. They were great fun. So the Stabilo 88 is water resistant. By that I mean that when you put water on it, some of that moves. You still have the line there. It's not as water soluble as those brush pens, but it is not totally waterproof. So you can do line and wash with one pen and simply with a water brush bring in the tone as well as the line, which I think is lovely. But that shows you the difference between the waterproof, the water soluble and the water resistant, and they're great fun. And of course, say with this one, if I wanted to add a little bit of detail once this is dry, I can always, sorry this isn't dry, but should I wish to wait for it to dry, I can always come back in and crisp up some of those marks, and as long as I don't put any more water on, you get a really nice sharp line. So that was our gorgeous house. So having realised that I was slightly out of sync and struggling with the support of the books, I took the opportunity to get back in sync and did a 3 spread. And that's what I love about these concertina books. You can do a 1, a 2, like the one I've shown you, or you can start to become more sort of panorama. And of course you can do 4 and 5 and however many you want. This was down on the tiny beach that was straight over the road from where we're staying. The sun was going down, the sea was turquoise and gorgeous, the palm trees were there, the sand was soft and white. What's not to like? And again, this was just quite a quick sketch, mostly continuous line with a little watercolour on top. Following on from there, we had walked to a place called Spatestown, which wasn't very far, though it felt quite a way because it was very hot. And I was really taken with this building, bright red, and I used my Pentel brush pen to put in big bold marks, and then I used the rollerball fine liner because that was waterproof. So I'd taken this Uniball pen, it's black pigmented ink, and that was totally waterproof, so I used that because I didn't want it to then sort of mush into the background. And very sadly, I have lost my Pentel brush pen. I cannot find it. I am sure I brought it home, but I've unpacked my bags and I cannot find it, and I'm really annoyed because that was brand new and this was the first time I used it. And I really enjoyed it because it gave a very brush-like mark. You know, can you see here? It broke across the surface in the way that dry brushing would, and I really enjoyed it. It was a bit large and a bit thick for this size of paper, that's the only thing I'd say. And sadly, yeah, don't know where that's gone, so I may have to treat myself to another. Well, I had a whole pile of fun with these. Sitting in the garden, and a little troop of green monkeys came on through. They have the most gorgeous tails, and they are sort of a yellowy green, possibly not purple, but I have very limited colours with me, so of course you just have to improvise, and of course purple is the complementary of the yellow, so I wanted to bring that in. The joy of when you sort of see something, see some animal life, is of course you can find out what's happened, and these little monkeys came from West Africa. Sadly, I guess they came as part of the slave trade. They were probably bought by sailors and established in Barbados, but they are African monkeys. So there are about 14,000 of them in Barbados. They are very happy. What was gorgeous was there were a couple of mothers with tiny little babies clinging to their tummies, and yeah, I was really happy to see them. These are drawn not from life because I was too busy oohing and ahhing over the monkeys and they were too fast for me. But here again, I've used the waterproof pen and then added the watercolour. So just a simple line and wash. This was the highlight of my week. We went and snorkeled and swam with a green turtle. and there were lots of us there. Sadly, I thought we were going on a small boat tour. It turned out there were a lot of people, and we were briefed about, not chasing the turtles, not touching the turtles, back away from the turtles. This turtle, was that close to me, and I'm backing off, and I am really, really short-sighted, and I thought, oh, I'll never see anything because I've just got my ordinary sort of mask on. I haven't got a special prescription mask. The turtle was so close to me I could see it, and it had no fear. It was just wonderful. So I did this later on, obviously not from life, because this would be a very soggy sketchbook. And what I've done is just extended it because I wanted that flipper on, and it sort of grew. So used the waterproof black pen, and then I used these little Viviva colour sheets for this gorgeous vibrant colour. That blue, I think, was, let me just turn that over. Yeah, ocean blue. Well, gosh, you couldn't ask for better colour than that, could you? That was a real dream come true for me. One day we went to a marine reserve to hopefully see more coral and fish and just see what was going on. There isn't a lot of ecotourism in Barbados. Having been to Costa Rica, where everything is about ecology and 60% of the country is in national parks, that is not the case in Barbados. So sitting in the shade, because it was so jolly hot, and I just sketched the lifeguard station, which made me laugh because it was a very beautiful lifeguard station with absolutely no evidence of lifeguards whatsoever. Again, I used a lot of continuous line, and if you're not sure what I mean by continuous line, say on the trees, and I love the bark of them, just taking your pen and not really taking it off the paper. So, well, not really, not at all. It's a lovely way of just letting your eye wander, and I got caught up in the patterns of the trunks and of the bark, and it's just a very nice way of working like that. That might be obvious for, say, a trunk. Let's put that sort of bit where maybe a branch has come down, and we might put something like that, continuous line. But it can be really good, well, for any sort of sketching, because it does make your eye just rove around in a very controlled way so that you see the whole place, and you can capture quite a lot of detail, or the implication of detail. So say I did that, and then I've got my windows. It looks like and I can come off, or I can stay on, whichever I want. No great rules here, but I can just capture lots of details very quickly in a continuous line. Here I use lots of, well, what would you call it, palette mud. If I've been mixing colours and I've got little sort of muddy mixes left over, that can be great for something like this, and you can just sort of mix them up and get interesting effects, and that's a nice way of getting that sort of foreground coming forward. And all too soon the holiday was over, and I thought, what shall I do with my last page? And a sunset seemed terribly apt. So I sat on the beach and painted a little sunset. Again, not the best painting in the world, but that's not what this sketchbook is about. It's about having been there, enjoyed the experience, been in the moment. It's almost like meditation, because you're absolutely present when you are sketching, and even the roughest, smallest little painting or sketch brings back the memories of the sound of the sea or the feel of that really silky soft sand or whatever. If you watched my perfect sketchbook film, I put in an expandable pocket because I do usually like to collect lots of bits and bobs. As it happens, I didn't collect a lot of bits and bobs, only that map, but the pocket was good. Someone suggested, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember who it was. I will try and find it. And it was such a good suggestion that if I didn't want to waste one of my watercolour pages, I should have stuck the pocket between the last page and the cover so that I'd have had a watercolour page here, the expandable pocket, then the cover. I do not know why that didn't occur to me. When I make another one of these, that's absolutely what I'm going to do. Another great suggestion was that if, say, you were travelling from longer and you were slightly concerned that this was going to get really battered, you could protect the surface of the book just by coating the covers with something like Mod Podge, a waterproof white glue, couple of coats of that, and it would give extra protection. As it is, I think that has stood up to everything very well. Of course, if I wanted to, I can work on the back of these sheets because, as you can see, none of the paint has come through, none of the ink has come through because this is good quality watercolour paper and nothing has fallen to pieces. I did stick it together well, so I'm quite proud of myself there. The one thing I didn't touch at all, I thought I'd taken the scissors and the glue stick. I thought I might do some collage. I didn't. That's just the way the cookie crumbled. I was only there for a week and I just didn't get around to it. I hope you've enjoyed seeing that, and I hope it's given you some ideas of how you can capture your holiday memories.